Hallo zusammen, zurück bei Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1. Wir müssen jetzt diesen Kurt Manchius finden. Der wurde uns ja beschrieben, der hat eine Maske mit Sternen drauf. Und ich schaue jetzt mal, wo hier so eine zu sehen ist. Der hat doch Sterne drauf.
Kurt Manchius, I presume. I'm Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, you must be the one Werner told me about. What a sweet voice you have. It must belong to a handsome young man. Can I call you Sherlock?
As you wish, Mr. Manchius. Mr. Vogel asked me to help you. The body in the altar room requires answers, and quickly. I suspect the murderer to still be here.
What? Lower your voice. I don't want anyone to hear us.
Did you know Fabio well?
People are starting to look at us, Sherlock. Change the subject. I can't believe what happened to him. To me. Such an atrocity. Think what it means for me. A wonderful evening for so many good, influential, and rich people has been ruined. I have betrayed all my promises of exotic delights.
I don't understand. Surely a murder would affect your reputation to a greater extent.
Please, isn't this why you are here? I thought you were a silent magician. Do your tricks and make it go away.
I need to find all those who had the key to the altar room. As far as I know, Mr. Vogel, Fabio, and you had access to it. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. Also, Matista and Santos.
Santos? Who is that?
Santos Pinchetti, my major domo. In his opinion, at least.
I'd like to speak to Mr. Pinchetti and Matista. Do you have somewhere I might have a private conversation with them?
Of course, of course. Let me think. Matista is entertaining the guests somewhere, and Santos... Oh, yes. He will be busy with the servants. Or the cook. What's that noise? What's going on? Please, filth. You're under arrest.
Er hat sich auf den Tisch gestellt. Ja, so ein Mist, jetzt ist Sherlock auch verhaftet. Ja, aber gut, wir waren ja noch verkleidet. Auch als so einer. Ich gehe davon aus, dass wir uns jetzt auf der Polizeiwache befinden werden.
Committed a crime, and now I have to free you, kiss your hand and apologize for the inconvenience, Your Grace.
I did tell you that Mr. Vogel and I were innocent. I emphasized it in my statement.
Your statement? Thanks to some bigwigs who work for the so-called good of the country by releasing fleas like you. Thank God we have Vogel in his letter. Once I get to that goldfish, I'll...
Bigwig? Oh, my wretched brother Mycroft and his long nose.
Wait, did you say Mycroft? Mycroft Holmes? Are you the youngest son of Violet Holmes, rest her soul?
You knew my mother?
Not personally, no. Not exactly. I was working on the paperwork for that case.
Would you happen to remember anything of the events?
Well, I didn't make the inquiry, but I remember seeing some notes. Why?
You must help me. It would mean a great deal to me if you could find any information about that day.
Huh. Got you hooked, right? You know what? Stark and the others think they're the smartest here, thanks to you. Let me get this straight. Are you listening to me, lad?
I'm all ears.
Take this case. Report to me only, to Constable Harvey Oswald. I'll leave everything I have on this table. Find the murderer. Be a real copper. Question the suspects, make them sing, give me something substantial.
And if Mr. Vogel is not a suspect?
If he's innocent, then you can take your favourite degenerate away from here. If you slip or mess with the evidence, then trust me, your brother won't save you from my bludgeon. Meanwhile, I'll be checking the archive for you. If anybody asks, then you're a consulting detective.
Let's make a start then, partner.
I'm glad we managed to get the scoop before the raid.
Kann ich mich eigentlich hier jetzt umziehen? Nein, können wir natürlich nicht. So, aber wir gucken uns mal an, was hier auf dem Tisch liegt. Einsatzbericht Aktenzeichen 6260. Nach der Aussage eines Zeugen, eine Leiche als Folge eines satanischen Rituals aufgefunden zu haben, wurde eine Razzia auf dem Manches Anwesen genehmigt. Sie führte zur Festnahme mehrerer verdächtiger Personen und zur Auflösung der Abendgesellschaft, deren Gäste in Masken und Roben zugegen waren. Sie konnten beim Vollzug unsittlicher und widernatürlicher Handlungen auf frischer Tat ertappt werden. Der Leichnam des Tatopfers wurde liegend und mit einer Stichwunde in der Brust auf einem Altar vorgefunden. Die Beamten identifizierten das Opfer als Fabio, 20 Jahre alt, örtlicher Darstellungskünstler. Festgenommene Verdächtiger Werner Vogel. In Werner Vogels Besitz befand sich ein in barschem Ton verfasster Brief aus der Feder des Tatopfers. Werner Vogel behauptet, den Leichnam gefunden zu haben. Er ist berüchtigt für seinen exzentrischen Charakter. Sherlock Holmes trug die Tatwaffe, einen Dolch mit dem Blut des Tatopfers, sowie weitere Beweisgegenstände bei sich. Er war von einer der anderen verdächtigen Personen, Vogel, eingeladen worden, vermutlich um die polizeilichen Ermittlungen zu behindern. Carl Manchers, Eigentümer des Anwesens und Veranstalter der satanischen Zusammenkunft. Er hatte das Tatopfer für die Teilnahme am Ritual bezahlt. Als Eigentümer des Anwesens hatte er Zugang zum Tatort. Matista, Partnerin des Tatopfers und Teilnehmerin am Ritual. Sie versuchte zu fliehen und widersetzte sich der Festnahme. Bei ihr fanden die Beamten ein Buch mit einer Beschreibung des Rituals, das im Altarraum durchgeführt wurde. Einige der Gäste wurden für eine weitere Befragung in Gewahrsam genommen.
Back on track to solve the case.
Protokoll einer Zeugenaussage. Hiermit möchte ich Santos Pinchetti einen Mordfall auf dem Anwesen von Kurt Manchers in Grand Surrey melden. Während der Vorbereitungen für die heutige Abendgesellschaft hörte ich laute Geräusche aus einem verschlossenen Nebenzimmer. Ich betrat den Raum und sah an den Wänden überall Blutflecken und seltsame Symbole. Außerdem steckte in der Brust des Toten ein Dolch. Es kann sich dabei nur um ein Opferritual handeln, geleitet von Kurt Manchers persönlich. Sobald ich wieder in der Lage war, klar zu denken, eilte ich auf die Polizeiwache, um den Vorfall zu melden. Eine Polizeistreife wurde nach Erhalt dieses Schriftstücks zum berichteten Tatort geschickt, während der Zeuge die Wache verließ und nach Hause ging. Wer sich im Besitz dieses Beweismittelscheins befindet, ist berechtigt, alle Beweismittel des Falls mit dem Aktenzeichen 6260 einzusehen. Okay, na, den brauchen wir ja.
Look, I found Werner.
Wir haben Gedankenspieler. Und zwar Mr. Ponchetti informierte die Polizei, und der ist auch der Haushofmeister. Ist ein Verdächtiger, auf jeden Fall, denke ich mal.
Werner, are you all right?
Oh, yes. Everything's fine. In fact, it's something of a family reunion. My brother spent quite some time in this place himself.
You should not be here. I told the police everything I knew, but they refused to let you go. They require proof to free you.
Ha! What did you expect? The mighty Sherlock Holmes swans in, tells the officers what to think, and the world obeys?
Of course not. Anyway, I struck a deal with the constable, and I've got a free hand in the investigation. I find proof to solve the case for him. He obtains files about my mother's death for me.
Well done. If one has the power or will and can act, then one must. I wonder, suppose you couldn't get the proof to your truth. Would you tell a lie to the guard that enabled my freedom? knowing my innocence? Would that not be just?
There are lines I will not cross, Werner. I will do my best to secure your release, but with proof, not deception.
Really? How many white lies have you told on this island? Why not for me? Why not another?
That is absurd. I can resolve this without compromises. Do not give up hope.
I'm not supposed to know anything about this. I don't think I can tell you anything about this. I don't think I can tell you anything about this.
I have learned who told the police about the crime. It was Santos Pinchetti,
Do I know him?
the major domo of the manor. He cleans up after you.
Well, then he does his job perfectly. All but invisible. I couldn't tell you the first thing about him.
So, gucken wir mal, wir können ja auch die anderen Zellen jetzt uns anschauen.
I'm Sherlock Holmes. I'm helping Constable Oswald. You are Matista, Fabio's friend.
This body, yes, it's Matista. But it's a mere shell that will die someday. Just like Fabio.
Please accept my condolences for your friend.
Thank you.
I'm just here to ask questions and find Fabio's murderer.
It will not bring Fabio back.
Ne, hier unten auf jeden Fall. Dieses einfache okkulte Tätowierung. Abgerissene Fingernägel. Ja, sie hat auch dieses Ding, was er hatte. Okay, was suchen wir aus? Losgelöst von ihrem Körper bestraft sich für die Vergangenheit. Batista ist eine darstellende Künstlerin und war Fabios Partnerin. Sie hatte ein schwieriges Leben. Bereits im Kindesalter wurde sie versklavt, wovon ihr Brandzeichen zeugt. In der Sklaverei lernte sie Fabio kennen, was die ähnlichen Brandzeichen der beiden erklärt. Alte Narben auf ihrem Körper sind bleibende Erinnerungen an ihre Jugend als Sklavin. Auch heute noch plagen sie diese traumatischen Erlebnisse. Das klingt doch plausibel.
You have both old and new scars. Some from the time when you were a slave with Fabio. Other scars have a different origin. The guests pay good money to torment you?
I am skilled in giving pleasure, but I don't participate in such practices.
I thought your body was...
For sale? It's true. Many unwanted things were done to my body. And the pain helped me to discover...
Occult deities? Yes, the tattoo speaks loudly of it.
Yes. Your gods abandoned me, and the ones I favor now are more protective of me.
How did you escape?
Something happened. One night the master fell down the stairs. I made him fall, and he died. We ran away that day. We managed to get on a ship and traveled here, to Gordona. Fabio and I started a new life here. It was very hard at first, but it became better with time. Until today.
The bruises on your neck are not self-inflicted. Someone else made them.
Some guests can't contain themselves. They even bite, sometimes.
Okay, wir haben von ihr jetzt auch was erfahren. Jetzt haben wir ihn hier.
Good day, Mr. Manchios. I am Constable Oswald's partner in this investigation.
Be quick and gentle. Some of your colleagues are untrained boors. Although I don't mind meeting young officers. The new blood here.
If you cooperate in finding Fabio's murderer, there will be no need to meet with the Boers again.
That voice. Werner's friend? You're the policeman. What a disappointment.
Only an undercover agent can scour a ditch full of deviants. I am a consulting detective, although I'm capable of replacing the entire department through my consultations.
Sharp-tongued, I like it. May I presume this tongue will get us out of this trouble? I would be so indebted and glad to repay you.
Nothing's changed. I'm looking for the murderer. That's the only way to get us out of trouble.
But it shouldn't take much time, correct? We're all busy after all.
I need to examine you first.
Trägt Schminke. Dabei hat er eine Maske aufgehabt noch, ne? Ausschlag vom Haarfärbemittel. Wusch in Eile seine Hände. Sehr teure Schuhe hat er an. Okay, was ist er verbirgt? Sein wahres Alter auf jeden Fall. Er trägt ja Schminke.
You are a little over the top with your use of makeup, Mr. Manchios. Is it so difficult for you to acknowledge your age?
Well, Sherlock, that's easy for you to say to an old man when you look as though you are barely 15.
But still, it shouldn't be an issue for someone of your status.
For people of my age, it isn't an issue, no. But the younger ones can be so afraid of wrinkles and grey flecks. I have to adapt.
Such a methodical man who cares for his body but misses the soap under his fingernails. Are you so impatient, or perhaps even impulsive?
I wouldn't call myself that. Silly little details. If I missed it, it wasn't important. Or rather, it was less important than who or what I was focused on.
Mr. Vogel told me a little about your parties, but I would like to know more directly from you.
I'm all yours, Sherlock. You have me arrested and locked here, with you alone.
I'd like to know who you usually invite to your parties.
Free minds who are able to leave reality for an evening, who can taste forbidden fruit without prejudice. There is nothing that quite spices up life like these parties, assuming one is old enough and has worked many years for the good of one's country.
Oh, all true labourers, I see. Why did you invite Mr. Vogel as your special guest?
He's a pretty fellow. He's capable of surprising the public. He has a talent for saying words that no one else would wish to either say or hear.
I suppose I can't argue with that.
He is a free addition to the eccentricity of the party, which is fine by me, as long as it enhances my party.
What was Fabio like? His personality, his habits? Anything you can tell me?
He was the brightest star of my parties. Young, magnetic, and full of energy. I don't even want to mention his beauty. Otherwise, I'll be sobbing.
An expensive champion, I imagine.
His performances were flawless. He deserved his payment. Do you think he was murdered because of money?
Possibly. What about the other guests? Were they used to opening their wallets as well?
I wouldn't restrict my guests from anything. I'm sure Fabio received a few coins from others for his services.
Mal gucken.
That's not something I know much about. You'd better ask someone else. That's not something I know much about. You'd better ask someone else.
Schade.
You'd better ask someone else. You'd better ask someone else. You'd better ask someone else. You'd better ask someone else.
Aber irgendwas
Do
muss
you
da
have
mal
any
gehen.
idea who tipped off the police to raid your mansion, Mr. Manchios?
Of course. It was you. I could even say you Sherlocked me in here.
A good guess, but the wrong one. The fellow who did that was Mr. Pinchetti, your major domo.
What? Santos? But how could he even know? If he's not the murderer himself. The ungrateful swine. He has dared to besmirch my reputation.
Not a very eloquent choice of words.
What should I call him then, since he's a snitch? Make him talk, Sherlock. I'm quite certain he knows more about the murder than he has told the police. I've no idea about that. I've no idea about that. You'd better ask someone else. That's not something I know much about. You'd better ask someone else. You'd better ask someone else.
You bought an expensive pair of cufflinks for Fabio. Were they his price? Or were they a tip for an exclusive show?
It was pure business. Fabio escorted me a few times. I was merely showing my gratitude.
This pair cost a small fortune. You must be extremely grateful then. Tell me more.
You've thrust a knife in an exposed nerve, Sherlock. Yes, he was my protégé and my beacon also. With my experience and his beauty, we could have achieved anything. I had faith in him. I would have made him.
Okay. Jetzt fehlt uns ja eigentlich nur noch einer und das ist dieser Santos. Kann ich mit dem... Nee. Kann ich eigentlich mit dem noch...
I know you can untangle this mess.
Schade. Doch nicht. Das ist die eine Zelle, wo ich hergekommen bin, hier irgendwo.
This area is restricted.
Schade. Nee, das war das, wo ich war. Ich stehe hier alle und trinken.
Did you hear Basilio Capello is in jail? A dead body was found in his showroom.
Herausfinden, was bei der Firma Amor Capello vorgefallen ist. Vendetta vielleicht? Nein. Unter meiner Anratze. Frau am Bund? Nee. Skandal in der Presse. Tod im Tresor. Schade. Was war? Jetzt quatschen die aber nicht mehr. Doch jetzt. Kommt, redet nochmal. Aber ich fürchte, wir sind da noch nicht fertig gewesen hier. Haben wir hier noch Zellen? Nee. Ja, vielleicht muss ich zum Archiv.
Did you hear Basilio?
Ja. Nicht geklappt, vielleicht beim nächsten Mal.
Good day. Your ticket, please, if you want me to help you. This is not a ticket.
Wo habe ich denn dieses Ding? Da ist er doch.
I'd like to check the evidence from this case.
And who are you?
Oswald sent me. I'm a consulting detective.
His partner, then? Let me see. Ah, a ritual murder. What a bunch of degenerates. Wait a second. I'll bring it to the table.
So, wo haben wir denn das Archiv? Das hier ist doch... War das hier das Archiv? Nee, das ist einfach nur irgendwas anderes.
Did you hear Basilio Capello is in jail?
Wer das nochmal hier? Hier ist was nicht. Ah, wir haben es raus. Tod im Tresor. Ein mitgehörtes Gespräch weckte meine Neugierde. Basilio Capello, Inhaber der bekannten Sicherheitsfirma Amor Capello, wurde festgenommen. Er befindet sich in einer misslichen Lage, da in seinem Firmengebäude eine Leiche in einem Tresor gefunden wurde. Basilio Capello beteuert seine Unschuld, aber die Faktenlage spricht gegen ihn. Er wird in einer Zelle der Polizeiwache festgehalten.
In the police. Let's pretend to be cops, eh? We can just stand around and look confused.
Hier ist ja das Archiv. So.
I've nothing to say about this. I don't think I can tell you anything about this. You'd better ask me a question I know how to answer. You'd better ask me a question I know how to answer. I don't think I can tell you anything about this.
Have you considered Mr. Santos Pinchetti as a suspect?
The snitch? Have you seen him? I mean, my breath could knock him down. What's so special about him?
As a major domo, he has keys that open all the rooms, including the one to the crime scene. Could have testified only to circumvent suspicion, don't you think? We need to question him.
Right. I'll send our men to fetch him. Stay here. They brought him in, Mr. Holmes. Here's the key to interrogation room number 7. Mr. Pinchetti didn't even resist, our men said.
Thank you.
Okay, da müssen wir mal gucken, sind hier überhaupt Nummern dran an diesen Räumen? Ah, hier sind die Nummern dran. 2. Hat gesagt, die 7. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Mr. Pinchetti, a pleasure to meet you. I'm Sherlock Holmes. I'm helping Constable Oswald.
I've already told him everything I know. I'm only a witness, sir. Everything's in my report.
And I've read it. You forgot to mention that you hold the keys to the room where Fabio was found. I need only to find if the crime was intentional.
But I need to return to my duties.
I doubt the house will fall without you, Mr. Pinchetti. Just be still for a few seconds.
Noch einer mit dem Hautausschlag, Schuppenflechte oder Allergie. Mehrmals repariert. Nachgefärbt mehrmals. In Blut getreten. Ich würde sagen, der ist in finanziellen Schwierigkeiten.
You are the major domo of a rich mansion, and you seem barely able to afford decent clothing. You hide, under heavy makeup, a skin disease that might be treated with more onerous but less harmful means. Do you have money troubles?
I do not have a lot of means. The pay is below what you might expect.
But you could easily change your job if your employer does not meet your elementary needs.
One can change his employer, that is true.
And the blood on your shoe, where does that come from?
I don't actually know. Perhaps from a guest?
Did you know Fabio?
Not personally. He was a frequent guest, and cleaning the mess after his performances was tedious. Mr. Manchios always had a role for him, and mainly the leading one. The parties were always Fabio-centric.
And Batista? Was she as popular as her partner?
Don't tell her I said this, but I do not think so. Mr. Manchios hired her only because Fabio refused to work without her. Mr. Manchios used to see her as a worker. She was tasked with entertaining the guests, unlike Fabio, who could pick and choose.
Okay. Was haben wir denn hier? Schlüssel.
I recognize the key from the altar room among these.
Kurt Manches Testament und Notiz. Eine kurze Notiz, die dem Testament beigefügt wurde, lautet: Santos, mein närrischer Faulpelz, du hast mich angefleht, dich in meinem Testament zu berücksichtigen, und das habe ich hiermit getan. Anbei die aktuelle Fassung meines Testaments. Kurt. Ein Auszug aus dem Testament lautet: Santos Pinchetti, Haushofmeister des Manches Anwesen, erhält ein Glas Bartwichse und eine Salzlampe, damit er sich stets an seinen fürsorglichen Arbeitgeber Kurt Manches erinnert. Na super, sehr nett.
Mr. Manchios says that you begged him to be included in the heritage. Isn't that a little extreme, even for a major domo?
He's not only my employer, he's my uncle. and I'm his next of kin. The only one. Mr. Manchios flatly refuses to pay a family member. All I have to do is repay his so-called love, cleaning up the filth after perverts and decadents. He's imprisoned me. The best I can hope for is a new broom. That's why I wanted to have my part of the inheritance.
Is it that bad? You have a roof above your head, a salary, and the status of a major domo.
For God's sake. I'm forced to dye and stitch my threadbare clothes, and the holes in my shoes are painful. I'm ashamed every time a guest looks at me closely.
Why do you think your uncle treats you this way?
My mother, my uncle's sister, had me illegitimately. She died, and I was given the surname of one of the maids.
But you are entitled to some of the money that belongs to your family.
He thinks not. I was not responsible for my mother's death. I work hard, and he pays me nothing. I feed on the leftovers. While he wastes our estate's property on decadent parties, he paid Fabio handsomely and showered him with expensive gifts for their disgusting relationship.
Interessant, interessant. Wir werden aber jetzt dann noch zur Reservatenkammer gehen. Das schauen wir uns aber wirklich erst beim nächsten Mal an. Ich laufe da nur schon hin. Und ich bedanke mich für heute fürs Zuschauen. Wir sehen uns bald wieder. Bis dann. Tschüssi.